Moving on to personalization. So that is on every organization's agenda, and customer data and collection and storage is required to create these personalized experiences across multiple touch points. So how does Squiz ensure customer data is stored securely?
Yeah, I think the first thing we do from a sort of digital experience platform point of view is centralize it. So in the past, and I guess even when we're thinking about composable digital experience platforms where you have quite a number of different products that data is stored in, you tend to see this sort of proliferation of personal information all over the place, like pull it in where you need it and then use it there. And then maybe it's connected to the source, maybe it's disconnected. It doesn't really matter. It's now all over the place and needs to be secured in multiple different locations. And not just secured from the point of view of customers getting access to just the data, like your end user, a student, say, getting access to just their record and not some other student's record. Not just about attacks that are coming in trying to access that data, but also about your vendors, right? Your like Squiz, the staff members there not being able to access that data. One of the things Martin told me early on is that our customers' data doesn't belong to us, right? So it's not ours. We're looking after it, we're storing it, but we shouldn't just have unfettered access to it. And so we need to control that as well. And so centralizing that data helps generally with security. I'm sure Martin will talk about bits and pieces of it as well. But that's the first and I think the biggest thing that we tend to do is bring it together, and then all of the things that Martin will go through in terms of security can be applied at that one central location. And that gives us a sort of more focused security across the data.
And I think one of the great things there, that Greg said is it actually leads up to one of the things that we do at Squiz quite often, as we actually talk about security all the time. And the conversations like we had around that, whose data is this, happens, I would probably say on a daily basis, probably more often. And that way we look at and improve what we provide customers. But in terms of the technology, the engineering aspects of it, there's a whole lot of simple things. We're looking at security from what everybody knows. Everybody knows that you need to control access. Everybody knows that you have to encrypt this data when it is stored and when it's transmitted from one place to another. We also look at how do we manage the access in terms of that, and how do we protect the data at source, and how do we monitor it, and all these normal controls. But what people usually don't look at is it's what each one of those little items individually doesn't really provide a secure or protected solution. But you have to do all of them, and you have to do all of them in such a way that you can actually get something meaningful out of it. And that is one of the important things that we always strive towards, is to make sure that we have a meaningless, I'll do that, to make sure that we have a meaningful security solution, and I would probably say portfolio across the whole digital experience platform and how we provide it. Some of those details, obviously, when we look at encryption, we leverage things like Amazon Web Services key management service to make sure that our keys are in the right place and we can cycle it at the right time, and that access to those keys are protected even from staff, because we tightly control access to our underlying infrastructure layer. Doesn't mean that we manage something that they've got access to customer data. The amount of people that has that really, really big level of privilege, because we do need some privilege to some of these things to make sure we can support it. But the amount of people that has that access is very small at Squiz, because we don't just grant it out. And to gain that access, you need to do a few things. We have screening processes through people and culture, which is part of onboarding. We make sure that certain approvals are needed before privilege access is granted. Privilege access is only granted to be able to do specific things, for a specific purpose. And all those kind of things, bringing together some of our practices, build on top of how do we protect this information internally. For customers, it has a few other things. We provide them with the ability to bring their own identity provider, so they can manage access to their I would say, solution layer themselves, with the ability to integrate into their identity provider, provides them with the ability to enable their own multi-factor authentication, and make sure who has access to what from their point of view as well, from all our customers' point of view as well. So all of those integrations and all of these things put together is the bigger picture, the larger picture of security we provide as part of this.